Well, greetings, Mac enjoyers, and here are some clips that didn't quite make the cut. Yeah, while I was filming my yearly MARCHintosh special, I wanted to do a video on the Power Mac G3 Blue and White, and thought that the other G3 Blue and White that I got from the recycling depot would still work, but when I booted it up, its hard drive crapped out, and if you know anything about the revision 1 Power Mac G3 Blue and Whites, is that finding a replacement hard drive is difficult. Yeah, even when you use the ID to SD card adapter, it doesn't usually work that well. It's finicky. Yeah, ID to SD card adapters work on the Power Mac G4, but on the revision G3 Blue and White, they could be a challenge. And I tried to install the classic macOS on Entrapta, the Power Mac G4, but it didn't make the installation. So yeah, that was another problem. Yeah, the disk drive sadly didn't complete the installation. I might get one in the future. So yeah, I didn't have the time and resources to mess around with all the Macs. So I also brought up the former CBC Broadcasting Power Mac G4, and I couldn't display video on it. So yeah, those are three Power Macs that are currently in for repairs. Yeah, 3 including the Power Mac G3 Blue and White that is yet to be restored, and I didn't have the time to get parts for it, as buying parts on Power Mac, buying parts for these old vintage computers requires getting them shipped to your door, and that takes a while. So when I looked for ideas on how I can make a MARCHintosh special, I actually figured out that you don't actually have to use a computer that's native to the classic environment. You can use a computer that runs the classic environment. Yeah, it runs classic mode like the eMac, and that's what eventually got me to make the Museum of Apple Computers, aka Otaku Bandito's ACM eMac video, because I basically exhausted all ideas that didn't involve time and money. But anyways, here's all the unused footage that I didn't want to see go to waste. Well, happy MARCHintosh, everyone, and it's finally time to take a closer look at this beauty. Yep, this beauty right here is the Power Macintosh G3 Blue and White. Introduced in January 5th, 1999 and discontinued in August 31st, 1999, this computer did a lot of things. Yeah, it was touted as a professional workstation. It's a professional desktop, but one of the best things that you could do with it was digital video. And this was cool because back then, digital video was hard on computers. Yeah, doing digital video was hard on computers. But this computer had the technology because, well, it had a FireWire port and you could actually hook up your DV camcorder to it, which was really amazing. And this computer came standard with either 64 megabytes or 128 megabytes of RAM depending on the model. And it could be upgraded to a whopping 1 gigabytes of RAM, which was crazy in 1999. Yeah, like, a few people needed that much RAM in 1999. So yeah, as mentioned on Vintage Apple Vaults, this computer had the horsepower to run Final Cut Pro, and when Avid Media discontinued Avid Media Composer in 1999, Apple announced that they were making Final Cut Pro. Yep, the video software meant for professionals. Yeah, and it's amazing that Final Cut Pro was around this long. Heck, I didn't even know that it was being made since 1999. And this computer pretty much spearheaded the digital video revolution. I mean, look at my camera right now. Yeah, this computer is the reason why digital video exists and why sites like Vimeo, YouTube, Metacafe, which is no longer around, and streaming services exist. It's all because of the Power Macintosh G3 Blue and White. It also came with an ATI Rage 128 card. Yeah, the configuration that I have right here is the 350 megahertz model. Yeah, I'm gonna lump all the G3 models in together because there isn't really much variation with these computers. Once you've got them, you pretty much, once you've got one, you pretty much got them all. Yeah, you get different processor speeds, but the way they are built, they're pretty much identical. And you also got these cool handles that you can use to carry around the computer. Yeah, I got this computer from a recycling depot alongside the Power Mac G4 that used to be used by CBC and rescued it. It's got some cracks, but it's mostly in good shape. So yeah, the Power Mac G3 Blue and White is the computer that's responsible for starting the digital video revolution. And the cool thing about FireWire is, well, this is something that Ken from Crazy Ken's Tech Misadventures and Vintage Apple Vault mentioned as well, is that it was hot pluggable, just like USB. And that was really cool. You didn't have to worry about terminators and all that jazz. So it was a really cool machine, and the best part is that you can get SCSI cards and you can maintain full backward compatibility. Yeah. I also like the color scheme for it. It's a pretty beautiful color scheme. Yeah, it's more than just an evolution of the Power Macintosh G3 Beige. And it's also easy to open. I'm going to show you right now. Here we go. Yeah, this computer is in rough shape because it did come from a recycling depot. Yeah, there's an Apple logo right, an Apple sticker right there. And here's how you open this computer. You see this notch right there? Yeah, you lift it up, and there you go. You get access to the motherboard. Yep, these are the internals. You got your PowerPC G3 processor. And in this case, it's a 350 megahertz PowerPC G3 processor. Got RAM sticks, and all of them are populated, which is really cool. It's fully upgraded. And you got your ATI Rage 128 and a hard drive. And what's really cool about this computer is that you can actually fit 3 hard drives in there. Yeah, there's 2 empty bays. And you can fit 3 hard drives in there. And depending on which model it is, you could actually equip it with DVD. Yeah, DVD was really new at the time. Keep in mind, this is 1999. A lot of people were still using VHS to watch their movies. And yeah, this is the front bezel itself. Yeah, it's got the cool power button, the 2 reset buttons, and I'm gonna lift that up, and it's a compact disc drive. So yeah, this is the model that has the CD drive. And there are all the ports here. You got your fire wires, the ADB, and what's cool about this computer is that it is the last ever Apple computer to use ADB. So it was a transition from the old world ROM to the new world ROM. Yeah, you got USB 1.1. Yeah. Jacks for headphones and microphones. Yeah, audio in and audio out. Yeah, you got your Ethernet ports. And this is another Ethernet port that you would have gotten, but this is a blank plate. You also got your power plugs. Yeah, one for the computer itself, and one for the monitor. Yeah, it's all the ports, and right below there you got DVI, and you can see it right there. On top is VGA. So yeah, it's got a lot of ports. It has the usual standard 10BASE-T Ethernet, which is a standard on a lot of late 90s computers, not just Macs. Yeah, it looks gorgeous on both the outside and the inside. Like, it looks pristine on the inside. I cannot believe this ended up in a recycling depot. I don't know who this belonged to previously, but whoever owned it last really took good care of it. I have another PowerMac G3 blue and white that's in much better shape. So yeah. This computer, like I said, could be optioned with a lot of stuff, and the reason why I'm lumping all the models together is because, yeah, the only difference is the processor speed and which options it came with. There's not really a lot of variety with these computers. Like I said, if you get one, you pretty much got them all. But anyways, it's time to test it out and see how awesome it really is. Here we go. It's time to test out the PowerMac G3 blue and white for, well, the second time. Yeah, let the monitor warm up for a bit. Yeah, this is what Jason from Jason's Macintosh Museum used to do. A shame he isn't around anymore. But anyways, once we let the monitor warm up, it's time to boot up the computer. Yeah, it's having some issues with the hard drive. Man, it sounds like hard drive's dying. It's not very good. Yeah, that is a worrying sound. Yeah. I'm gonna get out my adapter that I use in the PowerMac G4. Happy MARCHintosh, everyone, and it's time to take a closer look at the PowerMac G4 Sawtooth, aka the PowerMac G4 AGP graphics. The PowerMac G4 Sawtooth was first released on August 31st, 1999, and discontinued in July 19th, 2000. I'll explain to you in a bit why it had such a long production run. But first, let's talk about its history. The PowerMac G4 Sawtooth, along with the PowerMac G4 Yikes, which I will do a separate video on since the Yikes G4s are different from the Sawtooths, was made to replace the PowerMac G3 blue and white, which started a whole digital video revolution and pretty much created a lot of possibilities for what could be done. So the PowerMac G4 continued this philosophy. But unlike the PowerMac G3 Blue and White, this computer will not come available with an ADB port. The ADB port was gone. And in was USB and FireWire. Yeah, it still kept the blazingly fast FireWire and USB 1.1 ports. And this G4 in particular is nicknamed Entrapta, because it's supposed to be a Monster Mac build, and I even put the PowerPC Inside sticker on it because one of the YouTubers I liked, Greg from HotK Mods, joked about me getting a PowerPC Inside sticker, and I actually got one. Yeah. The story behind this computer is that, well, it was a computer that was destined for e-waste, and it was basically just sitting inside someone's apartment. And I got it for a not so good price, $50, considering that there wasn't much to it, but I did do some things with it. I put in new RAM sticks and put in a IDE to SD card adapter. Originally, it was being used as a parts machine until I made it into a project computer. There's going to be more done to this computer in the future. So yeah, when this computer was released, it was blazingly fast. So fast, in fact, that the US government had to put a temporary export ban on these computers because they feared that because these computers were pretty fast, they could be used by enemy countries to develop nuclear weapons, and yeah, the US government doesn't want any of that, so they decided to put an export ban on these computers, and I'm glad they did that, because you don't know what would happen in the world, and that's why we have the iconic, the PowerMac for the first time ever, a personal computer has been classified as a weapon by the US government commercial. That's why we have that commercial, because of the rules put in place by the US government. And this PowerMac G4 in particular came available with a zip drive. And yeah, you can get a zip drive in the PowerMac G3 Blue and White. So yeah, just like the PowerMac G3 Blue and White, it is powerful enough to be used for video editing and all that jazz. And of course, the processor speeds originally ranged from 450 MHz to 500 MHz for the sawtooth models, but there was one issue, and that was supply. Yeah, apparently there weren't enough PowerPC G4 processors being made, so supply for the PowerPC G4 processor was sparse, and that led to Apple reducing the clock frequencies to 400 and 450 MHz for the sawtooth models and 350 MHz for the Yikes model, which was originally clocked at 400 MHz. Depending on which model you would have gotten a model that either came available with 128 or 256 megabytes of RAM as standard, and it could be upgraded to a whopping 2 gigabytes of RAM. Yeah, 2 gigabytes of RAM. That was crazy in 1999. That's like the same amount of RAM, in fact, even more so than the Dell Optiplex PC. Pretty crazy, isn't it? The PowerMac G3 Blue and White could originally be upgraded to 1 gigabyte of RAM. Yeah, not that many people needed that much RAM back then. And you could also get either a 20 or 26 gigabyte hard drive, and it had 16 megabytes of VRAM. This thing was a beast, and it also retained the ATI Rage 128 card. But with the PowerMac G4, it had many more possibilities. Firstly, you could play hyper advanced games like Unreal Tournament on it. And you could also run macOS 10.4.11 Tiger on it. Not that you wanted to, but you could do that if you wanted. And there's a lot of things you could do with this computer back then, and it was well worth the price. So yeah, supply and demand is what led to a lot of people getting upset. Yeah, a lot of people got upset that the clock frequencies were reduced, and that led to people getting angry, and Apple actually reinstated the pre-orders except for people with the 500 megahertz models. And to those owners, they could either get a discount or a 450 sold at the original price. Yeah, a lot of people weren't too happy, and some people, including 65 Scribe, decided to wait to get one. So yeah, this led to a lot of chaos and was the reason why this computer was in production for so long. Eventually, the Yikes model was dropped, and all of the PowerMac G4 models became sawtooths. Yeah, I'll explain more about the Yikes G4 in a separate video. So yeah. And eventually in 2000, all of the original processor speeds came back. Yep, they restored the original processor speeds and everything was good. Until it was replaced with the gigabit Ethernet models and the digital audio models. So yeah, this was the computer to start it all. Well, I mean, the G4 lineage. It was the first of the G4 lineage. And just like the PowerMac G3 Blue and White, it also retains the same easy to open case. I shall show to you how you can open it up, because it's real easy and you don't need any tools to do it. So let's go. So yeah, here's all of the unused footage for this year's MARCHintosh special. Yeah, I worked really hard on trying to get this video done and had done a lot of tinkering. So yeah, if you liked this video, then you know what to do. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell just in case I haven't already done so. And thank you for watching. Catch you guys next time, and peace out.